My name's L.D. Scott. Today was our first day of full pads for coastal football. I'm really excited about what I saw, and we're just going to try to keep building, stacking days.
This is the first time we've gotten to chat with you. Just talk a little bit about your impressions of coastal football, kind of what drew you to this job.
I've been with Coach Beard for a long time. We have a great dynamic in how we organize our defense and structure our defense. He's more of a back end guy. I'm more of a front seven guy. We do a a good job on game day of just collaborating. We do things up front to stop the run. We do things in the back end to fix and stop certain route concepts. But the cohesion that we have, and on game day, things are stressful. It obviously is. It's a big time game. It's everybody's eyes are on you. Sometimes you really have to make some adjustments, and it's going to be hard on our players, and it's tense. But we have a great relationship, so I think we just work seamlessly together.
You mentioned your cohesion, your relationship with him, but just talk about the relationships that you're starting to develop with these players and what you've seen.
So our players have been awesome. That's one of the best things our coaching staff talks about is, these guys are all in. Not just the guys that have been here, but the guys that we brought with us and the guys that we've recruited. Because we had a huge roster turnover. Especially up front. I had to remake our D line basically. But a guy like Eve has been awesome as far as bringing this group together, leading, and then being coachable. Because that's an important piece too. Is how you hold guys accountable, how you coach them. They didn't know me before a couple months ago, but I coach a certain way, and they have to adjust. And I've been very very happy with the way our guys have come out and practiced and worked.
Can you talk about the way you coach and your defensive philosophy?
So defensively, we want to be physical. We want to play fast and physical. I talk to our guys all the time about it doesn't matter what kind of front we're in, what kind of coverage we have, how many people we're blitzing. We just have to be sound. We have to do a great job of all 11 guys playing on the same, playing the same play every play. So I make defense very, very simple. We want to set edges up front. We want to build a wall up front, and then we want to swarm to the ball. Right now we're calling that our teal swarm. So, if you come out, you see us practice, you should see teal swarming everywhere. I think that's why they're putting us in gray right now because we swarming too much.
Coach, you talked about this being the first day in full pads. It's rare, I think, especially in the spring, to tackle to the ground. Is that sort of the philosophy you guys want to establish right off the bat? We're going to be physical regardless of when it is.
Yeah, I think we want to be very structured in how much we do it because we want to take care of our guys, but you have to know if guys can tackle. This game is big. The very first defensive meeting we had as a unit, all we talked about was tackling and leverage. I don't know how well we tackle unless we actually tackle people. And our backs need to know that too. Our guys, our running backs, our tight ends, all those guys, they got to get used to being tackled. We have to be able to go for the ball. They have to secure the ball. And we got to play football. And I know, a lot of people don't want to actually play football right now, but that's the only way you can truly know if you're a physical football team is you got to go 11 on 11. Now, obviously, we don't hit our quarterback. The quarterback's never live here, but everybody else, we got to play football a little bit.
You talked about sort of meshing the players together, new versus old. How difficult was that process, and what things did you try to do before we got to spring practice to make sure you had a cohesive unit on defense?
So that's a great point. One of the things we did was we do a great job with community service here. And so we split the whole team up into different groups, offensive guys, defensive guys, DBs, linebackers, O-linemen. We mix the whole team up, coaching staff included, and then we go out and we serve. We go out and serve in the community. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we went to a couple basketball games. Our men's basketball team had a good season. We went out to a couple of them as a team to support the other programs. I think we got another event next week where we're going to go watch the baseball team play. So it's just those little things of just competing against each other out on the field, but then coming back together at the beginning and end of practice, and then in those type of events, and letting the whole group know that it's us. It's not them, it's not me, it's us.
Do you want to be able to establish maybe your starting rotation at the end of spring, or is that something that you're not even worried about at this point in time?
No, I'm not worried about it right now, just because they know. The film doesn't lie. The guys who are different, they'll show it on film. And it's very easy for me because the film backs up what I say. But I think our guys understand, and I recruited certain guys here knowing that I play a big group up front. We're going to play 8 to 10 D linemen a game. That was a little bit different for them last season, and I know that did cause a little bit of some issues how the rotation went. But I was totally upfront with all the guys I recruited, and the guys who came with me. We're going to compete, but I'm going to play 8 guys. My twos are going to work really hard in practice because they know they're going to get to play. So I don't actually have any issues with rotation and reps because I play a lot of guys.
Yeah, and I know it's early still, like week 2 of spring ball, but who are some of those names that you've seen really take a charge here in spring ball so far?
So Ebe has been awesome. He had a great day today. He had some really, really explosive plays in the backfield. Mitchell Toney, one of my players who came from Missouri State with me. I think those 2 guys have a great combination going on right now at one of the DN spots. So another guy that came with me was Worm, Ahmad Poole. Worm has done a great, great job. Yeah, his nickname is Worm. He was real slippery when he was a baby, so they nicknamed him Worm. But Worm is one of my favorite players I've ever coached because he's so unselfish. We got a really good combination going on at the other DN spot with CB, Shondavian Bradley, Don Grayson, and Obi. I'm not going to try to say Obi's last name. I just call him Obi. But those 3 are competing at that other DN spot. I got a great rotation going on there. And then at D tackle, there's still some more competition going on. So I'm not going to really talk about any other guys just yet until I go evaluate this film today.
But you're referring to Ibrahim
Yes.
Diawara? Okay.
Yes.
Was his tape from last year all helpful for you, or you basically look at all the returnees sort of as a clean slate? You didn't look back at last year.
So before I could recruit guys to here, I had to know what we had. And Ebe was one of the guys that I wanted to make sure we kept. Beard had told me a lot about him from his evaluations of bowl practice, and I'd never seen him. By the time I got here, they were gone for vacation, and so I'm recruiting based off of Scott and Beard's evaluation, and I trust those guys. They just said you're gonna love him when you see him. So that's enough for me. All right, I got to go find some other pieces to work with. I thought based off of his film, I thought he reminded me of Mitchell Toney, and their game is very, very similar. And they were probably 2 of the most dominant forces up front today. So I think Ebe has been phenomenal from the very beginning. He's organized player only meetings. He's organized voluntary defensive meetings and walkthroughs. The little things. As far as if you want to be a great team, it's about what you're doing when the coaches aren't around, and he puts a lot of work into it. It's actually it's funny you mentioned that because I said something similar to Robbie, our receiver. Back in our winter mat drills, he saw me in there working out by myself on Saturday. He was like, "Yeah, coach, you got to get all you guys here." And I told him turn around, and he saw the whole D line coming in every single guy, and that wasn't me, that was Ebe, and that's the type of leader he's been. So I really love what we got going on right now up front. I think it's going to lead us. I think we're going to be led by this front, and I like what we did today.
I'm good.
Only 5 practices in, long way to go. But what would you like this defense to look like as you head into this season? What do you want fans to expect?
I want it to look versatile. I want us to be very, very versatile and deep. It's a long, long season. We need to have great depth at all 3 levels. So I mentioned we got 5 pass rushers I think can play for us right now. At D tackle, I don't have 5 guys yet. So I'm still trying to work on that depth. We got a really, really deep linebacker room. I think we got a lot of guys in there can play that are still competing. But I want to be versatile as a group. We want to be able to take a lot of different things away. Some teams are going to be, try to run the ball and RPOs. Some teams are going to be tempo. Some teams like our offense are going to be more drop back pass, play action pass. We want to be able to adjust and play against any different opponent. Just having those different pieces. And it's just how you use your personnel. So right now we're still evaluating that personnel, seeing what all things guys can do. But one thing I think we are going to do is we're going to fly around and be physical.